Welcome to Virtual Realms, I'm Ranger 1. Today I'm going to show you some highlights from a few subscriber replays. A selection of the best of the best of the best. We'll start out with Shyguy 204. And he's flying out the classic Lag 323 in Operation Uranus, or as the media called it, at least briefly for a while, Operation Uranus, until they realized that Uranus was just as politically incorrect as Uranus. He's in a blinding blizzard, and he's going to be engaging a selection of BF-109s and the plane that personally scares me at this tier, the Focke-Wulf 190A. I don't have very good luck against them, and I didn't have very good luck flying out this airplane. And the combination of the two, well, I'm a lot more comfortable just leaving this one to Shyguy. Well, that was pretty smooth, but he's just getting warmed up. Yeah, that Focke-Wulf's going to go down here in just a second. There's more to come. You see, Shyguy's bled off a lot of altitude and speed, and a lot of the opponents that he sees ahead of him are just out of his reach right now. But off to his left, he's going to spot a BF-109 that's actually at lower altitude than he is. He's going to have to use what altitude he has left to build up enough speed to catch this guy. And from that point on, he's going to have to make some very interesting decisions. He'll have to do everything he can to keep his speed up in a plane that just doesn't accelerate all that well. He's going to have to watch his ammunition like a hawk, and he'll have to make some critical decisions as to when to engage and when to evade a variety of opponents that often, quite frankly, have him sorely outgunned. So far he's done well. but now he's got a Focke-Wulf 190A in an attack position directly above him. And he's going to have to evade sharply to avoid the attack. The evasion is successful, although he caught a little lead in the process. It would be incredibly rude of him not to return the favor before the end of the match. That was nicely done, even with the loss of his flap. I'm having a hard time resisting the overwhelming urge to make another Uranus joke at the Focke-Wulf pilot's expense, so perhaps we should just move on to the next match. We'll segue from the snowy skies over Stalingrad to the balmy Pacific. Let's join Desolation as he takes out the N1K2JA. There he'll be engaging American B-29s, Bearcats, and P-80 jets. His first order of business is to prevent the fast American bombers from getting past the Japanese defensive fighter screen and getting to the Japanese fleet. The bombers have all been accounted for. Now he finds himself in a turning, whirling furball of activity, surrounded by bearcats and the occasional slashing attack by an American jet. The sharp-eyed among you may have noticed that Captain Rammeric is also on Desolation's team. These guys never really had a chance. Desolation has just put some very solid hits into the P-80 of Gecko 11. The pilot is still in the air, and Desolation will gain altitude and keep tabs on him. He's going to outrun Desolation, but he looks like he's critically injured, and Desolation is just going to simply bide his time and wait and see if he needs to move in and deliver the finishing blow. He'll track Gecko 11 to the outskirts of the map and finally locate him again, mere moments before Gecko is forced to ditch at sea, thus ending the match in a victory for Desolation's team. So far we've seen a couple of excellent matches featuring the Russians and the Japanese at their finest. But now we're going to take a look at a match by a pilot simply known as Ben. And he's going to show us what British nerves of steel are all about. He'll be flying out the Spitfire Mark IIB. We all know that the Spitfires, even the early models, are excellent aircraft, but sometimes, to emerge victorious, you need something more than just a superb vehicle to fly into combat. You need skill and daring, and sometimes you need to know how to run a bluff. This battle's going to take place in the skies over Sicily, and the action begins now.
You pull no brakes when you're riding to the core.
And again, we have an all-star cast in this match. Captain Rammeric is on the other team this time, which would be extremely scary. However, Ben is backed up by Little Romer, and that kind of balances the scales. Ben's already sitting on 5 kills, and he's gotten his ace this match already. And he's running dangerously low on ammunition, but he's not done yet. That BF-109E just made an attack run on him and nearly took him out. He's struggling to catch up with the rather fast German fighter aircraft, but he gets an assist from Little Romer, who is flying an A-36 Apache ground attack aircraft. And while it may not be the fastest plane in the sky, it can hit really, really hard, especially in the hands of a good pilot like Little Romer. Irwin's on fire now. Ben closes in. At this point, it's inevitable that Irwin's going to go down, and just as Ben's cannon shells shred into him, his plane explodes due to the fire started by Little Romer. Well, that's all well and good, but Little Romer goes down at that point. He took too much damage in that dogfight. At least he manages to bring it in for a soft landing. Still, that means for all intents and purposes, Ben is now on his own. None of Ben's other teammates have really made a significant contribution in this match, and there are still 2 enemy pilots left in the air. One of them is that Focke-Wulf 200 bomber that just disappeared in the distance. It looks like it's heading for the cover of the enemy airstrip, so Ben sets his sights on him and heads in that direction. And who knows, he may find the last fighter pilot there as well. A minute later, Ben catches up with the Condor. Sure enough, it's heading for the airstrip and the protective cover of his AAA guns. The pilot's name is Jack Mercer, and I've got to give Jack credit. In this scenario, this was the smartest thing for him to do, for a couple of reasons, the anti-aircraft guns being only one. He's making his final approach. He's already dropped his landing gear. He knows he's in trouble, but he does not give up. He fights back. He fires with everything he's got, and the defensive armament on a Condor is not overwhelming, to say the least, but he gives it his best try. Against Ben in this Spitfire, though, the results are inevitable. That being said, focusing on that Condor is almost Ben's undoing. CCTV-9 comes out of nowhere and lays into him, a heavy barrage of cannon fire and machine gun bullets. And Ben returns fire in kind. And thus begins one of the most interesting dogfights it has been my pleasure to view. Working against Ben is the fact that CCTV-9 has just rearmed and refueled his plane, so he's in peak condition. And Ben also has to deal with the anti-aircraft fire there by the airbase. However, in Ben's favor, the Spitfire is very maneuverable at low altitudes, and CCTV-9 hadn't had a chance to gain altitude yet, although he's built up a fair amount of speed, even with that disadvantage on his side. But none of that is what makes this dogfight so unique. You see, Ben is about to make an interesting and unnerving discovery. In his last pass, he used up the very last bit of ammunition that he had. And he's just about to realize that right about now. So Ben, your mission right now is to take down a fully outfitted BF-109 and an unarmed Spitfire. Well, like any good British officer, Ben's answer is never in doubt. It's a simple 2-word reply. Challenge accepted. Ben just literally flew his opponent into the ground. That was a superb display of aerial piloting skill. Well done, Ben. Well done. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode. I want to thank you for joining me today and for all your support. We just recently passed 1,400 subscribers, and that makes me a very happy ranger. Until I see you guys again, thank you very much, and good hunting. Thanks for watching. I hope you were entertained. If you liked the video, please remember to subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you. And I'll see you next time.